Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. It's all about self-education.
Self-education.
For busy people.
Yeah.
All of us who are out there working families, long to-do lists, all that stuff, but still want to learn and grow as people.
Of course.
So we found this really cool YouTube audiobook that
Yeah.
that kind of digs into this properly.
Tackles it head on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So right away, it jumps into this idea of tiny steps, which I thought was really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's basically saying you don't need hours and hours to study and learn every day to make progress.
Yeah.
It says even just 15 minutes
15?
a day,
Right.
if you do it consistently,
Make it a habit.
it can lead to big results.
What I thought was really neat is how it compares it to other habits we have.
Okay.
Like we're already good at fitting little things in throughout the day.
Right.
Like your morning coffee, scrolling through social media.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a quick workout if you're, really on top of things. So why not think of learning the same way?
So instead of aiming for this big study session,
Which you never...
that's never going to happen.
Right.
You sneak in little moments.
Exactly.
The day to
Micro-learning.
Micro-learning. I like that.
Just make it a part of your routine. Like brushing your teeth.
Right.
Or taking the dog out, just
Yeah.
a normal thing.
Okay. I like that.
And they have this analogy in the audiobook I thought was really useful.
Okay.
They compare it to gardening.
Okay.
You're not trying to grow, a giant oak tree overnight.
Right.
It's more like you're planting these seeds
Okay.
and you're nurturing them consistently over
I
time.
love that.
And eventually they bloom into, knowledge, resilience,
Yeah.
all these things.
That makes it feel much less intimidating
Right.
than this whole, I got to become a scholar.
Yeah. You don't need a huge plot of land,
Right.
just a little patch that you tend to consistently.
Yeah. And that actually leads perfectly into the next thing. The audiobook talks about, which is self-directed learning,
That's correct.
which I know can sound a little
It can.
intimidating, but the way the audiobook breaks it down,
Yeah.
it's actually pretty empowering.
It is.
So in a nutshell, what is self-directed learning?
Basically, it's you taking charge of your education.
Okay.
You decide what you learn, when you learn it, how you learn it.
That sounds great in theory, but I feel like you need to be
You need,
a super disciplined person to actually do that.
yeah, I think we think that.
Right.
But what's interesting is the audiobook argues that these qualities,
Okay.
these things we think you need, curiosity, discipline, motivation,
Yeah.
they're not fixed. You can actually build those skills.
Really?
Yeah, just like a muscle.
So you can train yourself to be more curious.
The audiobook has techniques for that.
Wow.
It helps you make self-education something you actually look forward to.
Okay, now we're talking.
Right.
But then how do we even know what we want to learn?
That's where the learning plan comes in.
The learning plan.
Yeah. They suggest a SWOT analysis.
Wait, a SWOT analysis. I thought that was for businesses.
Yeah, they apply it to personal development.
Oh, okay.
So it's your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
For me.
For you, yeah.
Okay.
So what skills do you want to improve?
Okay.
What opportunities are out there?
Right.
What might hold you back?
Okay, so that's a more practical side.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we also be thinking about what we're passionate about?
That's where the passion inventory comes in.
Okay.
They want you to think about what makes you lose track of time.
Huh?
What are you naturally drawn to,
Ooh.
even as a kid?
Uh.
What did you love?
Oh, wow.
What projects did you get lost in?
So it's uncovering these hidden interests
Exactly.
that maybe got pushed aside.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And they say that it's actually practical to understand your passions.
How so?
Well, if you can connect your learning goals to what you're actually excited about,
Yeah.
you're way more likely to stick with it.
Because you're not forcing yourself
You're not forcing yourself
to learn something that you feel like you should be learning.
You're choosing something you actually want to learn,
Okay.
which makes it more enjoyable.
But then what if I have a bunch of interests?
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah.
And the audiobook actually suggests bringing in other people, mentors, colleagues, friends who know you well.
Okay.
They can help you see your strengths,
Right.
maybe opportunities you haven't thought of.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Sometimes we need that outside perspective
Yeah.
to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And they also suggest looking beyond just what you're interested in right now.
Oh, okay.
What are the trends in your field?
Okay.
What skills are in high demand?
Right.
What knowledge will help you stay ahead of the curve?
So it's kind of like balancing what you love
Exactly.
with what might be useful.
It's about aligning your personal growth with where the world's headed.
That makes a lot of sense.
And once you have an idea of what you want to achieve, that's where the goal setting comes in.
Okay, so we have to talk about SMART goals then.
Of course. SMART goal.
It wouldn't be a self-improvement episode
Right.
without them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this audiobook actually has a really good way of explaining them.
Okay.
So instead of just saying, like, learn to code,
Right. Which is so vague.
it's too vague.
Yeah.
They give you a way to make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
So give me an example.
They use the example of achieve proficiency in basic JavaScript
Okay.
by completing an online coding course within 3 months.
Okay, that's much better
Right.
than just learn to code.
Way more actionable.
Way more actionable, yeah.
And they also talk about short-term versus long-term goals.
Why is that distinction important?
Well, it helps you plan for both.
Okay.
Those quick wins that keep you motivated
Uh-huh.
and the bigger picture.
Like a roadmap.
Exactly.
Okay.
Milestones along the way.
But even with all of that, I think the hardest part
The hardest part.
is staying motivated.
Yes. Motivation is key.
Does the audiobook have any advice for that?
They talk about the 5-minute rule,
Oh, the 5-minute rule. I've heard of that.
if you ever tried it.
Honestly, I always thought it was a little too simple.
It's too simple.
Yeah, like how is 5 minutes
Right.
can make a difference?
The audiobook explains that usually the hardest part is starting.
Okay.
We build up these tasks in our minds.
Yeah,
They become these huge obstacles,
right.
and that makes us freeze up.
Yeah.
But if you just tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to do 5 minutes,
Okay.
kind of tricks your brain.
Into thinking it's not a big deal.
Yeah. And then usually once you start,
Yeah.
you just keep going.
You get into a flow.
Yeah.
Okay. I can actually think of times where that's happened to me, where I've like begrudgingly started something
It's just 5 minutes.
and then I end up getting totally into it.
Exactly.
It's
It's a good little brain hack.
And the audiobook also talks about visualization.
Visualization.
Now that's something I'm a big believer in. Me too. So how do they suggest using it?
They say visualize yourself actually achieving your goals.
Yo.
Like really imagine it.
So not just like I want to learn this skill,
Oh.
but I'm actually doing it.
Yes. Picture yourself giving that presentation
Okay.
or acing that exam
Okay.
or launching that business.
Oh, I like that.
That makes you feel good, right?
It does. I'm feeling motivated already.
But there's actually research behind it too.
Really?
Yeah. Visualizing something actually activates similar brain pathways
Wow.
as actually doing it.
So it's like a mental rehearsal.
It is.
Yeah.
Like athletes visualizing their performance.
That's so cool.
It can really help build confidence and prepare you for success.
Well, this has been an amazing start to our deep dive.
A lot of good stuff in this audiobook.
So much good stuff. We're just getting started, though. We'll be back with part 2 soon.
Absolutely.
We'll be talking about how to actually find time to learn,
Time management.
how to use technology,
Yeah.
and even how to deal with those setbacks. Dealing with setbacks.
That inevitably happen.
Inevitably.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
All right. So we're back for part 2 of our deep dive into self-education.
Part 2.
And last time we were talking about, finding those little pockets of time,
Yeah, micro-learning.
visualizing your goals,
Right. All that good stuff.
all that good stuff. But we can't really talk about learning today
True.
without talking about technology.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
It's unavoidable.
So this audiobook has a whole section
Oh, yeah.
on making technology work for you,
Work for you, not against you.
not against you.
That's the key.
Right.
And it actually starts by talking about learning styles.
Okay, so how does my learning style
Her learning style.
factor into choosing the right tech?
Well,
Is this going to be like one of those quizzes
not really.
where I end up being like a visual kinesthetic learner with a dash of...
No. It's much more practical than that.
Okay.
They talk about the classic styles, visual, auditory, kinesthetic.
But it's not about putting you in a box.
Okay.
It's more about thinking about what helps you learn best.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're a visual learner,
Yeah.
you might really like video tutorials or interactive simulations,
Okay.
whereas someone who's more hands-on,
Right.
they might prefer coding challenges or building something.
Okay. So it's more about finding tools that match how you naturally learn.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the cool thing is, there's so many tools out there now
Right.
for pretty much every style.
Yeah.
So like for visual learners, there's mind mapping software.
Right.
There's infographics. There's even apps that use visuals to explain complex ideas.
That's cool.
And for auditory learners,
Yeah.
obviously podcasts and audiobooks are great.
Yeah.
But there's also apps that let you record and listen back to your own notes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I know someone who does that with lectures.
Yeah.
She listens to them while she commutes.
Oh, that's smart.
It helps her remember the information way better.
That's really cool.
So it's all about finding what works for you.
But the thing is, when I think about technology and learning,
Yeah.
I also think about all the distractions.
That's the downside, right?
Right.
Social media notifications, the constant stream of information.
It can be overwhelming.
It really can.
So how does the audiobook address that?
They have this idea of curating your tech experience.
Okay.
So basically, being really intentional about who you follow on social media.
Okay.
Instead of just following a bunch of random people,
Yeah.
build a feed that actually teaches you something.
Oh, okay. So like following experts in your field.
Exactly. Thought leaders,
Okay.
organizations you admire,
Right.
even accounts that just share interesting facts or little learning nuggets.
So like turning my social media feed into a learning platform.
It's like your own personal learning network.
I like that.
And you can even go beyond just individual accounts. There's
Right.
all these online communities and groups dedicated to specific topics.
Oh, yeah. I've actually found some really cool groups
They're great.
where people are like sharing resources and
Yeah.
having really thoughtful discussions.
You can learn so much from other people.
And there's also all those live learning sessions happening online now.
Oh, yeah, webinars, Q&As with experts, even virtual conferences.
So much is available online.
And often for free or way cheaper than in-person events.
It's amazing.
It is. It makes learning so much more accessible.
But even with a curated feed,
Even with a curated feed,
I still feel that overwhelm sometimes.
it's hard to escape it.
Right. Like there's just so much information coming at us all the time.
The audiobook actually suggests setting boundaries around your tech use,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
might sound counterintuitive,
Right.
but sometimes the best way to make technology work for you
Is to use it less.
is to use it less.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So like setting specific times to check email and social media,
Okay.
turning off notifications,
Yeah.
maybe even having tech-free days or evenings.
Oh, wow.
It's about taking back control of your attention,
I like that.
making sure technology serves you, not the other way around.
Be the master of your text.
Exactly.
Not a slave to it.
Exactly.
And that actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier.
About,
Learning a habit.
right.
So just like you wouldn't let your workout routine get hijacked by distractions.
You got to protect your learning time.
Right.
Don't let it get sucked into the endless scroll.
The endless scroll. I love that.
It's a black hole.
It really is.
Yeah.
So basically, we need to be mindful about how we're using technology,
Mindfully and
making sure it's helping us achieve our learning goals,
not hindering them.
not hindering them. And speaking of goals,
Oh, yeah. Goals.
we have to talk about setback.
They're going to happen.
They are going to happen. No matter how motivated you are,
It's part of the process.
life happens.
Life happens
Things get in the way.
all the time.
So how does the audiobook suggest dealing with those setbacks?
One of the biggest things they emphasize is don't let setbacks derail you.
Oh, okay. That's easier said than done.
It's easy to get discouraged.
You feel like you failed.
Right. But they suggest reframing those setbacks
Okay.
instead of seeing them as failures.
Yeah.
Think of them as feedback.
Oh, okay.
What went wrong?
Okay.
What could you do differently next time?
So it's about learning from those experiences
Exactly.
and using them to improve your approach.
It's all part of the learning process.
And sometimes setbacks are just a sign that we need to adjust our course.
Yeah. Maybe the method you're using isn't working.
Okay.
Or maybe your goals are too big.
Right.
Break them down into smaller steps.
So it's about being flexible,
Flexible.
adaptable.
And not being afraid to try something new.
If what you're doing isn't working,
Don't be afraid to switch it up.
exactly.
And that actually ties back to that growth mindset.
The growth mindset.
We talk seeing challenges as opportunities,
Right.
not roadblocks.
I love that. And it makes me think about the importance of community.
Community.
Yeah. When it comes to learning, I know in a traditional classroom setting, community is obviously important.
Right, you're surrounded by other students.
But how does that apply to self-directed learning?
Well, the audiobook argues that even when you're learning on your own,
Yeah.
having a supportive community can make a huge difference.
Okay, so like mentors?
Mentors, peers, online communities,
Okay.
people who share your interests.
I've definitely found those online communities to be really helpful.
Me too.
Ugh.
It's amazing how supportive they can be.
Yeah, you feel like you're not alone.
Exactly. You have people to bounce ideas off
Yeah,
of,
right.
to celebrate wins with,
Yeah.
and to encourage you when you're feeling stuck.
And it's not just about receiving support.
No, it's about giving back, too.
Right.
Sharing what you've learned, helping others.
Contributing to the community.
Exactly.
And actually, sometimes the best way to learn something
Is to teach it to someone else.
Right.
It forces you to really understand it.
And it also creates this sense of like
Legacy.
legacy. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Passing on the knowledge.
So we shouldn't be afraid to reach out to others.
Right.
Ask those people who inspire us, who share our passions.
And who can support us on our learning journeys.
Exactly. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up part 2.
Part 2 done.
Of our deep dive. But don't worry, we'll be back soon with part 3.
More to come.
Where we'll explore even more strategies.
Even more.
For making self-education a part of your life.
Even when you're busy.
Even when you're busy.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. Wow, part 3 already. It feels like we've covered so much in this deep dive.
I know. It's flown by.
It really has. We've talked about tiny steps and tech tools and that whole idea of a growth mindset.
And community. The power of connecting with other learners.
Right. So much good stuff. But as we wrap up, I'm curious, what are some of the themes or ideas from this audiobook that have really stuck with you?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's how this audiobook manages to be both practical and inspirational at the same time.
I see what you mean.
It's not just about giving you tips and techniques. It's also about helping you develop this mindset of lifelong learning.
A love of learning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even embracing things like curiosity and creativity.
Ooh, creativity. Now, there's a topic I'm always interested in. But I'll admit, I tend to think of creativity as something separate from self-education.
How so?
Like, I think of creativity as something for artists and musicians. You know, people who are naturally gifted.
Right.
Not for those of us who are just trying to learn new skill or get ahead in our careers.
I think that's a common misconception. And the audiobook actually challenges that idea.
Okay, I'm listening.
It argues that a creative mindset is essential for anyone who wants to be a successful learner, problem solver, or even a leader.
Okay, so it's not just about painting or writing poetry.
Exactly. It's about thinking outside the box.
Right.
Approaching challenges from new angles.
Okay.
And coming up with innovative solutions.
So basically you're saying that anyone can be creative.
Yeah, that's what the audiobook suggests. It says that creativity isn't this magical talent. It's a skill that can be developed and strengthened, just like any other skill.
So like a muscle you can train.
Exactly. And they offer a bunch of techniques for flexing that creative muscle.
Okay, like what?
One of the key concepts they talk about is divergent thinking.
Divergent thinking.
Like, have you heard of that?
I feel like I've heard the term, but I'm not sure I could explain it.
Basically, it's the opposite of convergent thinking.
Okay.
Which is all about finding the single right answer.
Right.
Divergent thinking is about expanding your options, brainstorming a wide range of ideas.
Even the crazy ones.
Even the crazy ones.
Okay.
The ones that seem totally out there.
So it's about exploring all the different paths, not just the obvious one.
Exactly. And the audiobook actually uses Thomas Edison as an example.
Thomas Edison, Mr. Lightbulb himself.
Exactly. Well, before he came up with the light bulb design that worked,
Yeah.
he tested thousands of other filaments.
Wow.
He didn't just settle for the first idea he had. He kept experimenting.
So he embraced those failures.
Exactly. He saw them as valuable learning experiences.
That's pretty inspiring, but it also makes creativity sound like a messy process.
It can be messy.
Yeah.
But the audiobook argues that it's often in that messiness, that willingness to experiment and try new things,
Yeah.
that the truly groundbreaking ideas emerge.
So how can we tap into that divergent thinking superpower?
The audiobook recommends setting aside dedicated time for brainstorming.
Okay.
And creating a judgment-free zone.
Both internally and externally.
Exactly. So when you're brainstorming,
Yeah.
don't censor yourself.
No matter how silly the ideas seem.
Exactly. Just let those ideas flow freely.
And it's also helpful to brainstorm with other people.
Right? Absolutely. Bouncing ideas off of each other can lead to those aha moments.
Yeah, those moments where everything just clicks.
And the audiobook points out that some of the most innovative companies in the world,
Like Google.
like Google, Pixar,
Yeah.
they've built their cultures around collaboration and creativity.
So it's about harnessing the collective genius.
Exactly. And that applies to our own learning journeys as well.
Okay, I like that. So we should surround ourselves with people who inspire us.
Yes. People who challenge our thinking.
And who bring different perspectives to the table.
Absolutely. It's about creating that ecosystem for creativity.
But even with all of that, I think it's important to acknowledge that creativity can be elusive.
It can.
There are times when you just feel stuck.
Oh yeah, creative blocks happen to everyone.
So what do you do when that happens?
Well, the audiobook suggests taking a break.
A break.
Yeah. Step away from the problem.
Okay.
Go for a walk, listen to music, do something that helps you relax and de-stress.
So sometimes the best way to overcome a creative block is to stop trying so hard.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need to let your subconscious mind work on it.
It's like when you're trying to force a solution
Yeah.
and it just won't come,
It's like a puzzle piece that won't fit.
and then you let it go,
You walk away.
and suddenly the answer appears.
Like magic.
It's like magic. So it's about trusting the process even when it feels uncertain,
Trust in the process.
and remembering that creativity isn't always linear.
There will be ups and downs.
But if we keep showing up,
And keep experimenting.
the breakthroughs will come.
They will.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into self-education.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has. But before we go, I want to touch on one final idea that I found really powerful.
What's that?
This concept of creating a legacy of learning.
Oh, I like that.
For me, it's about recognizing that self-education isn't just about acquiring knowledge and skills for ourselves.
Okay.
It's also about sharing what we've learned with others.
Paying it forward.
Exactly. Inspiring others and contributing to a world where learning is valued and accessible to everyone.
Beautiful.
And the audiobook offers some really concrete suggestions for how to do that.
Like what?
It could be mentoring someone or teaching,
Okay.
or volunteering your time to help others learn,
Right.
or even just having conversations with friends and family about the things you're passionate about.
Spreading the love of learning.
Exactly.
I love that idea.
So it's about recognizing that learning is a gift.
A gift to be shared.
Yes. And the best way to honor that gift is to share it with others.
Well said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. So to all our listeners out there,
Keep learning
keep growing.
and keep diving deep.
Until next time.